Welcome to Unbelievable Stories. Today's story is full of shocking twists and real drama. Subscribe and like to stay updated. Let's dive in.
I stared at the window, watching the SUV reverse down the driveway, turn left, and vanish along Cedar Street. I pondered why I was not more upset. I'd just witnessed 10 years of my life go away. Shouldn't I have felt anything? Shouldn't there have been more than just a shrug? Oh well, I mused. I guess I should go take care of that dripping faucet. As I turned and walked toward the kitchen, I replayed the events of the last hour in my mind. When I got home from work, I'd find my wife, Laura, seated at the kitchen table, a full glass of Chardonnay in front of her. I knew something was up the moment I saw her. First, she was home before me, and she seldom arrived home from work until an hour after I did. Second, we were told that the first one home would start supper, yet there was nothing on the stove. Finally, there came a glass of wine. Laura seldom drank. When I stepped in, she urged me to sit down and said she had something to say. I grabbed a cold ale from the fridge, sat across from her, and she said, "Adam, I know you know this, there's been something off between us for the last 5 months or so. I have no idea why, but we seem to be drifting apart. I don't know if it's something to do with me or with you, but something is wrong. I've tried to talk to you about it, but all I get is that we're just going through a rough patch and that it'll get better. I've decided that we need to separate." "Oh, come on, Laura. It isn't that bad. Sure, we're having some problems. What marriage doesn't? But two people can't work out problems if they're away from each other and not talking. Talking isn't going to help, Adam," she said. "You only see one problem with our marriage. As far as you're concerned, the only problem we have is that we're no longer intimate. Your solution to the problem is for me to get naked and let you have your way. As far as I'm concerned, there is much more wrong. We don't make love because I don't want to, we don't snuggle or cuddle because I don't want you to touch me, and I don't know why I don't want you to touch me. I still love you as much as I did the day we were. I need some space, Adam. I need some time alone to figure things out. So, you want to throw away 10 years of marriage?" "No, Adam. I just think we need to spend some time apart. I've already packed my stuff in the SUV. I'm going to stay with my sister until I can find my own place. I'll call you once a week to keep in touch." She rose up and said, "I have to go. I promised Julia I'd be there by 8. She turned and walked away without even a kiss goodbye, which informed me where I stood. Laura and I had split, and news quickly spread. The majority of our friends were empathetic and went out of their way to cheer me up. Laura would contact me once a week to see how I was doing, and I would say I was okay. Then I would ask her how she was doing, and she would respond she was okay. When I asked whether she was ready to return home, she said, "Not yet." Laura had been gone for 2 months when I began hearing things. Things are not looking good. It seems that she had a live-in boyfriend. I did not want to believe it. I wanted to believe what she said, that she simply needed time alone to clear her mind and would be returning home. But the stories continued, so I decided to investigate them. I attempted to find out where Laura was staying to do some investigating, but no one could or would tell me, so I started to suspect that something was wrong with the scenario. At dinner with my buddy Tom and his wife, Megan, I expressed my worries and said that I was contemplating employing a private investigator. I observed Tom look at Megan, who nodded. "Save your money, Adam," Tom said. "The rumors are true. Most of our friends know what's going on, but they didn't want to tell you." "Tell me what?" "That Laura left you to live with Ethan Russ." "Ethan Russ? Who the hell is Ethan Russ?" "I've never heard of him." "He works with Laura, and yes, she left you to go live with him." "That doesn't make sense. If she was going to do that, why didn't she just divorce me? Why separation?" "Well, you know Laura. She plans and makes fallback plans. She's been seeing Russ for almost a year, and I'm guessing she did the separation thing so she could come home if things with Russ didn't work out. Everyone knew, but nobody would tell me." "Oh, thank you, friends." I tossed down my napkin in irritation, murmured thanks for nothing, and left their home. I reflected on all I had just learnt as I drove home. Laura and I had no intimacy for over a year because she didn't want to be near to me, no snuggling because she didn't want to touch me, and she had been betraying me the whole time. I'd sat at home like a fool, absolutely loyal, while my pals, my so-called friends, were aware of the reality but chose to keep me in the dark. Well, the wait was over. The following morning, I scheduled an appointment with Western Investigative Agency, paid a fee, and requested everything information they could locate on Laura and Ethan Russ. After then, I went home and made a list of what I needed to do to cut connections with Laura. I intended to wait until I received the report from the detective agency, but once I did, I would be ready. After making my list, I realized there was something more I needed to accomplish. I hadn't seen anybody in over 14 months due to Laura's distance and the separation. I'd been absolutely loyal, but now that I knew what Laura was doing, I wasn't going to stay celibate. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a drink, making preparations to break my lengthy dry spell, when it dawned on me Laura had planned all of this. She knew me well enough to foresee how I'd respond, and I had to believe she had prepared a countermove for every step I may take. That meant that my list was meaningless. It was time for a fresh strategy. I created a fresh set of steps that Laura would not expect. Some steps have to be made quickly, not at the last minute. I began with our money. I wasn't a major credit card user, but Laura had 5 or 6 in her name alone, with reasonable limits. I knew this because I had paid the bills. I began keeping track of each remaining account balance and made sure to just pay the minimum, just enough to maintain them in good standing. Then I cancelled my retirement account, paid the cost, and saved the money. Laura inherited the home from her parents, therefore I would not be entitled to it. However, it had been used as security for a home equity loan when we put in the pool, so both of our names were on the account. I imagined if I timed it well, I could write on that line without Laura seeing until it was too late. I waited until the weekend and then went to the bank. Laura and I had a safe deposit box there, and I saw from the sign-in record that she checked it often. That was my first indication that she was keeping an eye on things. I created copies of our deposit certificates, then returned them to their original envelopes and placed them back in the box. I retained the originals. I then pulled my passport from the box and nonchalantly informed the teller that I was going to Belize for a fishing vacation. If Laura found out about my intentions, she would assume I had traveled to Honduras or beyond. I went about my day as normal. I cashed in the CDS and secretly buried the money. I upgraded my computer, acquired some new gadgets, and made a few online transactions, all using Laura's credit cards. The house was hers, but the home equity loan was still available, so I took advantage of it when the opportunity arose. A few weeks later, Megan called to ask if I might see them. Even though I wasn't excited about going, I consented. When I arrived, Tom welcomed me in, and he and Megan exchanged deep looks. "Adam," Megan said, "we owe you an apology." I arched an eyebrow, and she went on, "We didn't tell you about Laura and Mark because we thought she'd eventually come home. We're friends with both of you, and we didn't want to hurt you." "Apology accepted," I responded curtly, feeling a sting of betrayal within. Megan then said something that took me off guard. "There's more, Adam. You know how you and Laura haven't been close, romantically?" The question was straightforward, and I couldn't miss the undertone. I had observed Megan's outfit, a low-cut shirt and a short skirt. Tom, for his part, squirmed uneasily and nodded. She stated with a kind voice, "Adam, Tom and I have a request. We want a family, but Tom, he can't have children. We've talked about it, and we both agree you're the one we'd like to ask to help us." I looked at them, shocked. But when Megan placed a kind hand on my shoulder, I recognized what they were asking. They asked me to father their kid. I glanced at Tom, who nodded, and I knew immediately what I was going to do. We reached a silent accord, and our understanding enabled Megan and me to continue. It wasn't out of sympathy, we made the decision jointly. After a long night together, I considered everything. Laura and I were done, but I'd found a new purpose in Tom and Megan. Our agreement lasted for the following month. We created a family in our own way, with me serving as uncle to the kid they intended to have. Soon, the detective's report arrived. It verified everything about Laura and Mark's relationship, but it didn't have the same impact on me as I had expected. I was already emotionally spent. I filed for divorce and liquidated our last remaining shared assets. By the time Laura found out, I was prepared. When she phoned to confront me, I told her I was done and there was nothing further to talk. The divorce was quick, and I went on. Megan and I had a lovely baby daughter the next year, and I became Uncle Adam to a kid that I adored. I remained close to Tom and Megan, respecting our family's tie. Months later, when Tom died after a protracted illness, he wrote me a note asking me to care for Megan and the kid as I would my own family. So that's what I did. 6 months later, Megan and I were married. We formed a family and I discovered a new life that I had never imagined but would give everything for. Life with Megan and our daughter, Sophie, marked the beginning of a chapter full of calm and satisfaction. I relaxed into our new family rhythm, becoming the loving husband and father I'd always desired to be. Despite our atypical beginnings, our little family felt whole, united by trust and the shared memory of Tom, whose presence continued to lead and inspire us. Laura, meantime, was a ghost from my past. I'd sometimes hear rumors about her, usually from common acquaintances who couldn't help but keep track. Laura has difficulties rebuilding her life after coming to Florida. The last anybody heard, she was doing odd jobs to make ends meet. For a long time, the notion of her misfortunes gave me a weird feeling of pleasure, as if justice had been done. However, as time went, the sensation dissipated. I'd moved on and didn't feel the need to harbor animosity. Sophie grew up recognizing me as her father, and she flourished in the loving environment Megan and I had made. I was her Uncle Adam in tales about her childhood, but to her, I was simply Dad. As she grew older, we often visited Tom's favorite sites, telling tales about her father, the guy who had imagined her before she was born. We wanted her to feel his affection for her and know that he had given her the finest start in life by including me. Years passed with happiness and security, and the shadow of betrayal and pain faded. Megan and I resumed our lives, focused on Sophie and each other, and time helped us both recover. We'd alternate between reminiscing bittersweet experiences from the past and preparing for the future. Sophie came to understand the reality, but she valued her parents' decision, which was based on love, friendship, and devotion. Sophie once asked me about forgiveness while we were sitting at the dinner table. She'd lately heard some details about the past, and her kind inquiry warmed my heart. Dad, she said thoughtfully, do you forgive Laura for everything that happened? The question astonished me, but I looked her in the eyes and spoke truthfully. Yes, I do, I said with calm assurance. Holding on to anger does not help. Laura made her own decisions, and I've learned that clinging to the past detracts from the present. Forgiveness sets you free. Megan smiled, reaching out to take my hand and nodding in accord. It is true, Sophie. Forgiveness creates room for pleasure and love. We would not be the same family without it. In that moment, I grasped the full extent of what I'd earned throughout my turbulent years with Laura. Megan and Sophie were the best family I could have imagined. It was founded on love, loyalty, and trust, all of which I had previously feared were gone. So our journey proceeded, rooted in the relationships we had chosen and the family we had created. The wounds of the past faded into a life full of appreciation, pleasure, and the laughter of a kid who knew she was genuinely loved. It wasn't the life I had hoped for, but it did provide me with calm and contentment that I had no idea were available. As the years passed, our lives improved. Sophie developed into an extraordinary young lady, kind-hearted, sensitive, and intelligent beyond her years. She inherited Tom's compassion and Megan's strength, combining them in ways that always made us proud. Watching her develop made me feel a strong feeling of duty and thankfulness. My life with Megan and Sophie was all I had hoped for, despite the fact that it took an unexpected turn. Megan and I eventually decided to tell Sophie more about Tom's tale. We told her about his relationship with me, the lengths he took to ensure she was born and cherished, and his desire that I treat her and her mother as if they were my own family. Sophie absorbed it all in, listening carefully and, as usual, with extraordinary elegance. You know, she remarked one evening after we shared more anecdotes about Tom's life, I believe he knew I'd be fortunate anyway. Having two fathers just means I have twice as much to carry forward. She smiled, her eyes warm and understanding, and embraced us both warmly. That event strengthened our relationships, and I knew Tom's legacy would continue through her. Sophie was his daughter in spirit as well as name, and she carried a piece of him with her every day, bringing him closer to our hearts. Life did not always go well, but the love we shared gave us strength. Megan and I had the typical ups and downs of marriage, but each hardship pushed us closer together. Our relationship was founded on trust, profound friendship, and unflinching dedication to one another. Megan was my confidant and greatest friend, a partner who had gone through everything and, like me, had emerged stronger on the other side. As Sophie prepared to go for college, I couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet pride. She had grown into a confident, caring lady eager to make her mark on the world. Megan and I were thinking on our family's experience as we packed her belongings and took her to university. We believed Sophie would be okay because she had a strong foundation of love, resilience, and independence. The home seemed silent and lonely when Sophie departed, but Megan and I welcomed our new chapter with open arms. We traveled, revisited beloved spots, and even visited some of Tom's old haunts, which he had liked and mentioned but Megan had never seen. Throughout it all, we stayed close to Sophie, hearing her tales, sharing her experiences, and celebrating her accomplishments. She paid us many visits and brought guests home, making our house a haven of fun and comfort. Many years later, Sophie came down with Megan and me for coffee and informed us she had found someone important. She described her companion with joy in her eyes, which only increased our pride. Megan smiled as she reached across to grasp my hand, knowing that we'd both done our part to honor Tom's memory. We'd helped raise a kid who loved profoundly, just like her father did. Sophie finally began to have her own family as the years passed. Watching her with her children gave me a feeling of wholeness, as if life had come full circle. Her children grew up knowing their grandpa Adam, hearing tales about both grandfathers, one who looked after them from afar and another who was there every step of the way. It was a legacy of love that transcends time and geography. In the end, life provided me with all I could have hoped, and maybe more. I'd found peace, forgiveness, and a family that would uphold the ideals and love we'd fought so hard to establish. And as I reflected, I understood that sometimes the finest lives emerge from the unexpected. In every manner that counted, I'd returned home. As Megan and I settled into our responsibilities as grandparents, our lives became richer. We'd discovered a deep, joyous rhythm in these years, filled with the laughter of children and the calm companionship that comes with decades of shared existence. Our grandkids loved Grandma Megan and Grandpa Adam, and their visits filled our house with unbounded enthusiasm and interest. Sophie's children, 2 boys and a girl, were a constant source of delight and surprise. Each had acquired something from their mother, and hence from Tom. Little Sam inherited his mother's gentle personality and boundless sensitivity, and it was no secret that he had an ancient soul. He often asked Megan and me questions about life, love, and family, and his sincere interest recalled Sophie's inherent friendliness. The middle child, Liam, was a flurry of activity and creativity, the kind of youngster who was constantly up to something. He was a natural storyteller, and we were frequently intrigued by his colorful stories and amusing ideas. Then there was Clara, the youngest, with her fiery independence and gentle heart, who bore a striking likeness to her grandma, Megan, both physically and spiritually. Every Christmas season, our house became the hub of family events, attracting loved ones and friends. It was a time for sharing memories, creating new ones, and allowing traditions we'd developed over the years to take on their own. Sophie looked to us with a lovely grin one Christmas as we sat around the fire, drinking hot chocolate and swapping tales. She asked us to share one of our fondest memories of parenting her. Megan and I exchanged glances, knowing we had enough of tales to choose from. I cleared my throat and said, "There was this one time when you were about 4 and decided you wanted to save the world." Sophie and the kids leaned in, their eyes shining with excitement. "You devised a strategy to rescue and reunite all of the neighborhood's stray animals. You had fashioned a giant sign that said, 'Save the cats,' and attempted to put it up in our front yard." Everyone chuckled as I narrated the scenario, and Sophie smiled, recalling her childhood mission with fondness. Megan then shared her own memory. "Oh, and remember when you insisted on making cookies for everyone on the block? You spent the whole day in the kitchen, coated in flour, determined to ensure that everyone had at least 2. As we proceeded to share, I felt a rush of thankfulness sweep over me. These memories were proof of the life we'd made, the love we'd shared, and the family we'd started together. And now, with grandkids around us, I could see the legacy we'd left for a new generation. Years passed, and with them came the calm passage of time. Megan and I got older, but our friendship was still as strong as ever. We traveled less, enjoying simpler routines and peaceful days. We spent more time at home, relishing each moment together, watching the world change around us while clinging to what would never change: our love, our family, and the feeling of purpose that had carried us through so much. One spring day, as Megan and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset behind the trees, she reached over and grasped my hand. Her touch was as warm and comforting as ever, keeping me grounded in the present. "Adam," she whispered gently, her eyes set on the horizon, "this is exactly how I pictured growing old with you." I gazed at her, seeing in her eyes every moment, every struggle, and every delight we'd had. "Me too, Megan," I said, squeezing her hand gently. "I wouldn't have it any other way." We remained there in calm stillness, 2 individuals who had traveled a long journey together, bearing love, sadness, and innumerable memories that would linger on long after we had passed away. In the end, life had given us the greatest gift of family, united not just by blood but also by choice, love, and a common history that had healed the wounds of the past and transformed them into strengths. We had built a life that was rich in every manner that counted, and it would go on in the lives of individuals we had fostered, loved, and set free to make their own legacies. And as I watched the world fade into dusk, I knew that wherever the next adventure took me, I would be at peace since I had lived a life filled with all that truly mattered. As the years passed, Megan and I found ourselves in a period of quiet meditation. Our lives had been so full of laughter, difficulties, and love. Our family had expanded and flowered, and we could feel the effect of our love and care for Sophie and our grandkids radiating out into the world. Each visit from them infused our hearts with newfound purpose as they brought their own tales and aspirations, creating colorful new chapters on the canvas of our lives. One cool fall morning, when I was cleaning up in the living room, I discovered an old picture book stashed away on a high shelf. I took it to Megan, who was sitting by the window crocheting, and put it on her lap. Her eyes shone with recognition as she flicked open the cover, and we sat down together, immersed in a sea of memories. There were images from Sophie's early days as a child, grinning at us from her bike, family outings to the lake, when she caught her first fish, and numerous snapshots of holidays and birthdays spent with friends who had become like family. As we flipped the pages, the years appeared to disappear, bringing back memories with such clarity that we gasped. Then we got to a section containing images of Tom. In each one, he smiled easily, his arm around me or Megan, his eyes pleasant. It had been so many years, yet seeing those images reminded us of how much he had meant to us and how he would always be a part of our lives. You know, Megan whispered gently, shutting the album but leaving it on her lap, he'd be really proud of Sophie. Of all of us. I nodded, feeling warm and grateful. He would, I agreed. We did our best to honor him, and I think he'd be happy with the life we've built. Our love became stronger over time as we weathered the inevitable trials that come with being older. Sophie came regularly, bringing her children, and even as they got older, they always welcomed us with enthusiasm and excitement. Each visit filled our house with tales of their triumphs, new beginnings, and experiences, keeping our lives linked in a lovely, never-ending loop. Megan and I eventually slowed down, preferring to remain close to home, surrounded by our family and friends who had joined us on our voyage. Sophie would occasionally look over us with a peaceful awareness, sensing that life's seasons were changing. Sophie joined Megan and me in our yard on a lovely day, holding a notepad. She smiled at us and explained that she'd been writing down our family history, the tales we'd told, the lessons we'd handed down, and the trip that had taken us here. It was her way of protecting our heritage, and she wanted to ensure that our grandkids, and maybe their offspring, always knew where they came from. We spent hours telling tales about our early days with Tom and how we met, as well as the family customs we had developed over time. We laughed, remembered, and were even brought to tears. Sophie listened intently, her pen catching the details, and her face lit up with each new recollection. In those latter years, we took comfort and satisfaction in knowing that our tale would be carried on by people we loved. Megan and I continued to sit together in the evenings, watching the sunset with our hands interlaced, experiencing the calm of a life well spent. We were satisfied, having watched our family grow, our aspirations realized, and our love solidified as the cornerstone of something everlasting. When it came time for each of us to go on our final voyage, I knew we would do so with grateful hearts. We'd shared a love that had sustained us, and that love would live on in Sophie, her children, and everyone they touched. Our tale would live on, not only in words, but in the enduring legacy of love, perseverance, and family. And when the time came, I departed this world knowing that our love had produced something lasting, something genuine, a family founded on love, forgiveness, and an unbreakable link that would last long after we were gone. We had lived a meaningful life, and when we died away, I got the sense that our tale would always be a part of something bigger, living on in the hearts of those who would come after us, permanently inscribed in the lives we touched. Sophie kept our narrative alive even after Megan and I died. She maintained our house as a family meeting place, with walls covered with pictures and souvenirs that chronicled the narrative of our lives. The memories kept inside those walls got incorporated into the new memories formed there, new chapters of laughter, love, and connection. Sophie's children grew up with a strong sense of family, imprinted with the qualities we handed down: love, loyalty, and tenacity. They would often sit with Sophie in the evenings, listening to her tell stories about her own upbringing, the lives of her two dads, and the special love that had brought our family together. She'd read to them from her notebook, which had evolved into a record of our family's journey, a living monument to everyone involved in its development. Sophie passed on a bit of our family's heritage to each of her children as they got older. She handed Sam, the gentle-hearted oldest, the picture book Megan and I had previously gazed over together. He kept it secure, sharing it with his family and passing on the memories it held with the same love and empathy he acquired from Sophie. She gave Liam, the storyteller, the diary in which she had written out her family history. It became a treasure trove of memories for him, which he would eventually pass down to his own children, weaving our family's history into the new stories he created and shared with his loved ones. Sophie also gave the home to Clara, the youngest and most independent. Clara devoted her life to keeping it alive, recognizing it as a place where family could come, laugh, and find peace. She filled it with her own family, blending old and modern to keep the house alive with life and tradition. Our family became even bigger over time, with great-grandchildren hearing tales of Grandma Megan and Grandpa Adam, their great-grandfather Tom, and the love that binds us all together. They remembered our tales as if they had experienced them, and as each generation passed, they added their own layers to the family tradition, preserving our memories in ways we could never have dreamed. Every year on the anniversary of Megan's and my deaths, the family gathered to commemorate our lives. They told tales, performed songs, and raised a glass in our honor. It became a beloved tradition, a moment to reflect on the family's origins and the trip that formed them all. Our narrative, once tied to two individuals, had become the basis of a legacy that would last decades. And as the years passed, our family grew, changing while remaining true to the values of love and togetherness that had brought us all together. Our path, previously defined by unexpected twists and turns, had evolved into a powerful tribute to perseverance and love, a narrative that had impacted many lives and would continue to do so for decades to come. Our legacy lives on in every child's giggle, every whispered bedtime tale, and every peaceful moment spent with loved ones. We had created something timeless, and it remained a gentle and constant presence in the lives of people who carried our tale on. And even after we were gone, our love, teachings, and laughter carried on, inscribed in the hearts of each new generation, a family united not just by blood, but also by a heritage of love that would carry them on forever. As years passed, Megan and his legacy became a treasured part of our family's story, a thread that connected them all. Every new family member grew up recognizing the ties that bound them, and they bore our ideals with quiet pride. Our life stories formed a foundation, handed down with respect and humor, as reminders of the strength and love that had sustained us. Sophie's grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, frequently convened at Clara's house, which had become the family center. The home was more than simply a structure, it was a repository of memories, a place where the air was filled with laughter and tales passed down through generations. Clara had painstakingly kept it, retaining the rooms, furniture, and even the garden that Megan and I had previously meticulously cared for. It had become a family pilgrimage site, a gathering point for holidays, birthdays, and reunions. As Sophie's great-grandchildren gathered in the living room one day, Clara took out a dusty old trunk that had been stored in the attic for years. Inside were letters, photographs, and souvenirs from Megan and my time together, all meticulously maintained and preserved. Clara described how each item contributed to our tale and invited them to pick one to keep. Megan's letter to me, folded and worn with age, wound itself in the hands of little Isabella, who read it aloud to her brothers and relatives. Megan's remarks about love and forgiveness moved them profoundly, revealing the depth of the bond that had formed the family they knew and loved. Isabella was inspired and determined to send letters to her future family members, imparting the lessons she had learnt from her great-grandparents' love story. Sam, the family historian, discovered an old notebook in which I had written observations on our early days, describing the challenges we had faced. He read my words of thankfulness and progress with wonder, finding in them the seeds of the family values he grew up with. Determined to preserve even more, he set out to create a comprehensive family history, a digital archive that would enable each family member to trace their beginnings. As years passed, family members continued to respect our tradition in novel and innovative ways. Some continued the custom of yearly meetings, ensuring that each new family member knew the tales of those who came before. Others found ways to embody the love word had by treating one another with compassion, openness, and empathy, virtues that had nourished us and would continue to nourish them for years to come. And as years passed, our family's tale evolved into more than just two people's legacy. It became a living narrative of perseverance, connection, and steadfast love that linked each new generation to the previous one. They were aware that they were a part of a greater tale, one that started with Megan and me and had evolved into a magnificent, ever-expanding circle of love. Each new kid, marriage, and friendship enriched the heritage, weaving new strands into a family tapestry that would never be finished but would always be full. And as they carried on the heritage, they brought us with them, a love story that transcended time and lives on in the hearts of all who remember it. As the family expanded, the heritage of love, resilience, and togetherness became stronger, serving as a beacon for each successive generation. Clara's house remained the family's meeting spot, meticulously kept with pictures, antiques, and memories from the past decorating every corner. Each grandchild, great-grandchild, and even their children grew up knowing they were a part of something bigger, a tale that spanned not only years, but also lives. As the digital era developed, Sam, the historian, started to film family video diaries at each reunion. These short clips recorded real moments, laughter, emotions, and memories from everyone, from the smallest infants to the oldest family members. His digital collection turned into a family treasure box, packed with each generation's voices, faces, and knowledge, bringing the family's past to life in a manner that seemed both timeless and present. Sophie's great-granddaughter, Hannah, was inspired by the family's tradition and sought to learn more about her family's history. She tracked the family's lineage farther back than anybody else, revealing relatives and tales that had been forgotten or lost over time. As she put together the past, she discovered remarkable stories of fortitude, migration, and resilience that helped the family understand who they were and where they came from. Her findings became part of family legend, adding layers to the tale that began with Megan and me. As time passed, Hannah and Isabella decided to make a book, a beautifully bound compendium of the family's history, filled with old pictures, letters, recipes, and values handed down through generations. They dubbed it Roots of Love as a testament to the family's fortitude and persistence. Each chapter focused on a separate generation, chronicling the unique struggles and achievements that had molded the family. Roots of Love became a rite of passage, not just a family treasure. When each new family member reached adulthood, they got a copy as a concrete reminder that they were a part of something long-lasting. The book became a source of comfort and pride, a reminder of the heritage they were each expected to preserve. With each new generation, the family met to read it aloud, adding their own recollections to the pages, guaranteeing that it would never be stagnant but would evolve with them. As the family grew, some relocated across the nation and even over the globe. Despite the distances, each member felt linked to the family's core. On birthdays, anniversaries, and milestones, they would phone, video chat, and exchange tales, their bonds overcoming the distance. Megan and his principles had not only survived, but had expanded into a global network of love and support. No matter where they traveled, family members understood they were at home with one another. Years later, when Clara died, the family reunited once again at her cherished house. It was a bittersweet moment, tinged with both sadness and thankfulness. She had been the guardian of the family heritage, ensuring that traditions were upheld, and she had carried our tale forward with elegance and courage. Her house was handed down to Hannah, who promised to preserve it as a family sanctuary, available to anybody who needed a place to meet, heal, and reconnect with their origins. Clara's home continued to hold family gatherings under Hannah's supervision, its halls reverberating with laughing, stories, and the odd song from one of the younger children anxious to perform for their elders. Every year, family members would assemble, adding new images to the walls, exchanging new tales, and welcoming the newest members of the family, each of whom realized early on that they were a part of something special. Over time, the family's reach expanded beyond any of us could have anticipated, with each new generation passing on the teachings we had learned. They cherished the past, lived completely in the present, and looked forward to the future, always remembering the heritage of love that began with two individuals committed to create something permanent. As years passed, the tale Megan and I had started became more than just a legacy, it was a living tribute to the power of love, tenacity, and family. Our family thrived via the pages of Roots of Love, the meetings at Clara's home, and the digital archives that captured every wonderful event, with each member permanently a part of the long-running tale. The love wedge shared transcended time, tying us all together in a journey that would never really end, handed down in love to all those who would follow and would continue to flourish for as long as there was family to carry it on. Thank you for watching. What one lesson would you pass along to future generations? Please share below and don't forget to like and subscribe.